Welcome back to The Explainer. You know, if you love digging into the raw data behind university admissions as much as I do, well, you're in for a treat today. We are pivoting our spotlight entirely onto a true historic heavyweight in Taiwan's higher education landscape, Kaohsiung Medical University, or as we'll call it, KMU. Previously, we went deep and mapped out the popularity trends of 13 prestigious universities. We're talking National Taiwan University, Chengchi, NYCU, NCKU, Tsinghua, Central, Taiwan Normal, Taipei University, Taipei Medical University, Chongqing, Chongcheng, Sun Yat-sen, and Tsinghua University of Education. That was a massive dataset. But today, we're dedicating this entire analysis to demystifying KMU's true standing. We're going to put KMU head-to-head against those exact same 13 institutions to see exactly where it sits on the national map.
Okay, before we get into the weeds with the individual departments, we really need to nail down our popularity metric. This isn't just your basic run-of-the-mill acceptance rate. This metric perfectly balances how hard a program is to get into its national rank with how desperately students actually want it, meaning the fill rate among qualified applicants. Mathematically, it's a geometric mean approximation where we multiply the fill rate by the inverse rank and then take the half power. But, simply put, think of it as a combined score of a program's absolute prestige and raw student demand. The higher this number, the more intensely competitive the program is.
So here is our roadmap for today. First, analyzing the overall popularity metrics. Second, the top tier, medicine and dentistry. Third, therapy, rehab, and sports medicine. Fourth, diagnostics, nursing, and public health. Fifth, foundational sciences and humanities. And finally, the Xinhua quotas and final trends. Let's jump right in. Starting off with Section 1, analyzing university popularity metrics to get our baseline context. Right off the bat, the overall numbers for KMU might actually surprise you a little bit. When we look at that 13-school dataset, KMU seems to lag behind Taipei Medical University. For the class of 2026 data, KMU's average rank number sits around 18,140, while TMU is way down at 13,080. And remember, a higher rank number means it's generally easier to get into, so we've got to address the elephant in the room. Why does KMU seem to sit in the middle to lower pack of this specific group? Well, the crucial takeaway here is that KMU is absolutely not unpopular, not even close. Rather, we're looking at a dataset that is heavily skewed toward the very top national comprehensive universities. Crucially, this data excludes many of the lower-ranked private medical schools. If they were in the mix, KMU would immediately shoot right toward the top of the pack. Plus, KMU has several smaller non-medical science departments that mathematically drag down its overall average. And lastly, TMU benefits immensely from what we call the capital city effect. Basically, the massive geographic pull and resource concentration of being right in Taipei. Moving on to Section 2, let's look at the absolute heavyweights, medicine and dentistry. Now, when we break down the specific programs, the entire narrative flips. KMU's core medical degrees firmly hold their ground as national top-tier programs. Just look at regular medicine. KMU sits at an incredibly competitive 0.019 popularity metric. Sure, it's slightly behind massive powerhouses like NTU, NYCU, and NCKU, but it is indisputably the second strongest private medical program in the nation, right on the heels of TMU. And get this, their public medicine program actually beats NTU and NYCU's equivalents in pure popularity. Dentistry and pharmacy, they are also standing shoulder to shoulder with the absolute best programs in the country. What you really need to take away here is the growth. KMU Medicine ranks 7th nationally across all schools, and it's showing a massive 4-year growth trend. Dentistry is also steadily rising, which makes sense, right? It's driven by the massive appeal of high market income and professional autonomy. These programs are heating up significantly, driven by national physician shortages and KMU's deep-rooted, incredibly powerful hospital network down in southern Taiwan. Let's shift gears to Section 3. Therapy, rehab, and sports medicine. We're tracking 4 critical allied health departments here: physical therapy, occupational therapy, respiratory therapy, and sports medicine. And we are seeing wildly varying fortunes within this one sector alone. Physical therapy holds a really strong metric and is actively trending upwards. But then occupational therapy and respiratory therapy are actually seeing a slight decline in applicant enthusiasm over the last 4 years. So what does this all mean? Well, it brilliantly illustrates the massive macroeconomic forces at play. Physical therapy is rising because it perfectly aligns with Taiwan's aging demographic, the huge push for long-term care, and the booming sports medicine trend.
But on the flip side, respiratory therapy is dropping as post-COVID demand finally normalizes, and quite frankly, students are weighing that intense workload against the compensation. Similarly, occupational therapy is facing some real pressure from lower salary expectations when compared to those top-tier core medical licenses we just talked about. All right, Section 4, Diagnostics, Nursing, and Public Health, the true front line of care.
Here we have all 7 of KMU's programs in this critical cluster. We're talking medical imaging and radiological science, medical lab science and biotech, nursing, public health, both the regular and English taught, oral hygiene programs, and healthcare administration and medical info. Now, public health and healthcare admin are actually holding pretty steady, largely due to a post-pandemic realization of just how important health systems and data management are. But some of the others, they are facing some severe external pressures.
For instance, check out nursing and medical lab science. Both are on a very clear downward trend. Nursing dropped recently, and med labs saw an even sharper dip. Why does this matter? Because it reflects a very real-world burnout crisis in the nursing profession. We're talking grueling hours and compensation issues that are heavily publicized right now. Meanwhile, the dip in medical lab science really reflects the fading of that post-pandemic biotech boom. Students are absolutely paying close attention to industry realities before they commit to 4 years in these majors.
Moving on to Section 5, Foundational Sciences and Humanities.
Looking at the non-core sciences and humanities, KMU offers 8 distinct programs. We've got psychology, medicinal and applied chemistry, fragrance and cosmetics, biotechnology, biomedicine and biology, medical sociology and social work, and the English-taught life sciences program. Psychology is the absolute standout here. It's remaining remarkably resilient and is even slightly rising, totally driven by a massive societal increase in mental health awareness. But the rest of the list? Honestly, they are struggling to maintain their EAT.
The undeniable truth is that there is a general downward trend for pure sciences and humanities at specialized medical universities right now. It's just a fact. The explosive tech industry boom in semiconductors and AI, it's acting like a giant vacuum, pulling high-scoring STEM students away from pure chemistry and biology degrees across the board. Plus, these fields often don't result in a clinical medical license, making it really hard for them to compete on starting salaries. Without the buffer of being a massive, multidisciplinary comprehensive university like NTU or NCKU, KMU really feels the heat in these specific departments.
Finally, Section 6, Sinhua quotas and final trends.
Before we wrap up, we absolutely have to highlight a crucial social mission that is beautifully embedded right in this data. This is the Sinhua quota, which translates roughly to passing the torch. This is a vital, dedicated initiative designed specifically to ensure that socioeconomically disadvantaged students have a guaranteed pathway into elite medical education. It literally levels the playing field in what is otherwise a hyper-competitive environment.
KMU dedicates 9 distinct Sinhua tracks, labeled A through F. The Elite A tracks are broken down into A1 for medicine, A2 for dentistry, A3 for pharmacy, and A4 for sports medicine. Then we have Track B for other medical licenses, C for chemistry, and D, E, and F covering humanities, life sciences, and public health. Now, the popularity metrics here are naturally going to be lower because the applicant pool is restricted by design, but the sheer existence of these diverse tracks proves KMU's deep commitment to upward mobility across every single one of its departments.
So, to summarize our deep dive today, KMU is absolutely not in decline. Let's be clear about that. Its medical core, medicine, dentistry, and pharmacy remains fiercely competitive, acting as the undisputed medical anchor of southern Taiwan. While its non-core chemistry and humanities departments are currently softening, that is entirely due to broader national tech trends and the AI boom, not a failing of the school itself. And that perceived ranking gap with Taipei Medical University we talked about at the beginning, that is simply a product of geography and Taipei's capital city magnetism, not a lack of educational quality at KMU.
Which leaves us with a pretty compelling question to consider for your own or perhaps your students' university journey. When choosing a path in healthcare, how do you weigh a school's geographic location against its deep-rooted legacy and vast clinical network? Does the shine of the capital city blind us to the foundational powerhouses built elsewhere? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the data.